Welcome to Breaking Banks Africa. I'm Matteo Rizzi, and together with my co-host Nadine Doro, let us take you on a journey of entrepreneurship, innovation, and vibrant ecosystems Africa has to showcase. More than 1 in 4 people will be African by 2050, this continent being already the youngest of the planet. You can't miss these stories. This is Breaking Banks Africa. Let's roll.
Hey guys, welcome back to Breaking Banks Africa. This is episode 8. My name is Matteo Rizzi, the executive producer of the show. And today is going to be what I could call a podcast between friends. I'm here with my brother, Philip Ngarambe, who is, I want to say, taking a very interesting break from a brilliant, let's say, adventure that I know him for, since it's been 10 years, but he will tell us more about it. Philip, welcome to Breaking Banks Africa.
Thank you, Matteo. Thank you for this moment, and it's been a while. Great to see you. You're looking younger.
Indeed. You're too kind. Philip, give us a little bit. So I just want to say that, today you officially are the entrepreneur in residence for ALX Ventures, but also you kept your AC group sort of a hat because, this is almost a part of your, DNA as an entrepreneur. But give us a little bit of snapshot, starting from the fact that you are talking from Kigali, Rwanda.
Yes, definitely. Reporting live from Kigali. Yes, I am with ALX at the moment in, as you mentioned, the entrepreneur residence, but for Kigali, we are based in other 8 countries. So we have, in each of them, we have one of me. But it's been an interesting transition. As you mentioned, the AC Group has been part of my DNA. It's something that I've worked on for many years. It's been fun. It's been a great startup. To see it grow from startup to it becoming a mid-sized company to it becoming a large company, and seeing the impact that it has made on the country, in the region, and what it's created in terms of the disruption and the different verticals that are going to come out of that. So it's been fun, but it's now an amazing experience working with young people, the next generation that's coming of entrepreneurs, sharing experiences, sharing the moments that I've gone through for free rather than paying for some of them, which you are very familiar. Matteo has been, an advisor to our board for some time. And you've been privy to some of our crazy moments and hard moments. So, but yeah, it's great to share with them some of these experiences and help them to navigate the landscape of entrepreneurship and startup to becoming a company. Yeah.
By the way, guys, if some of the listeners, has ever seen one of my presentations or talks, one of my slides is always an AC Group slide. So it's a phone with a pay and go sort of logo and a physical card, because we didn't talk about it, but AC Group is a company that digitalized bus transportation, across the city of Kigali. And I always mention that you almost have as many cards than citizens of the capital. Roughly 1 million cards, more or less. Certainly is a little bit more, but it is always astonishing when I talk about it. And of course, when you started digitizing this bus trips, companies were super grateful because, of course, there were much less cash around it, a much better experience. Then you add up, Wi-Fi on the buses, and so the whole journey was made better. But also the transition and the disruption between an experience that was completely, let's say, offline to an online one. And that's I'm telling the story so you don't talk, so you don't have to, but also because I think it's worth to understand that this is one of the most disruptive experiences and also like startups of the country. But I want to extrapolate from this venture sort of the topic of embedded finance, right? Because by digitizing transportation, you instantly enabled, your clients to have an online sort of payment experience, okay, that starting from mobility and quickly sort of went into a fintech one, right? Because technically we're digitizing payments. So, and I know that you personally actually try to do this in other countries. I know for sure at least one, because you were the one who opened the Kenya sort of a branch of the venture. So, uh, what do you think of? Let's talk a little bit about how financial inclusion, especially in Africa, often, it doesn't start from a banking experience, right? It starts from an Uber drive or buying a bus ticket, and all of a sudden you are from offline to online immediately, right?
Definitely. I was privileged to have been a student of the late Clayton with a disruptive course that they were offering with Harvard through Patrick when he was going there. And one of the things that we learned there was the theory of the jobs to be done. Creating the right tool that addresses the right person, and it's really there for the purpose of being hired. So you start to really have a mindset of this is an ongoing thing, it's not a one-time transaction. But also understanding, the job to be done itself. When you're talking about financial inclusion and you're always thinking banking hasn't really been a tool that has been created to take on the mass. It's something really that has been created to take on a few people who can afford. When you talk about, those monthly charges, when you talk about, I mean, access to finance, it's an incredible puzzle you have to figure out with time before you figure it out. Hence why you have very few people who are successful. It's a puzzle. So the more you know, the more you're successful. But chances are, majority of the people are not going to be financially literate, so they won't know how to access this. And if you make this as the only gateway or the only gate towards people getting financially included, it becomes really a challenge. So when we started this, like you remember, this was a by luck scenario where I had a family member who was in the transport sector, who was heavily investing in the transport sector, and it was really stressing the hell out of them, literally. And watching them every day, back to back, struggling with cash management, struggling with paybacks towards the people who had given them those loans. Then I kind of started remembering, hey, the experience I had when I was coming out of, Canada, where I went to school for maybe, for about 10 years. So I remember the transport experience being just seamless, I didn't know the owner of the vehicle. I didn't know the management. I never had to see people fighting. I never had to worry about fares changing based on weather, based on time, based on the day. Literally, everything was basically seamless. Like I could predict my journey all the way to school. But I never understood at the end of this is financial inclusion because there's data that's being gathered. So at this time, we just basically disrupted from a point of helping this person, hey, there's a card. When I used to go to school, I used to have a card, and this card used to allow me to be able to board the bus with money being safe. And this goes straight to the bank, which means you have access to finance directly and you're able to pay your people, pay your suppliers, pay your, the banks, everybody who you're working with. So we deploy that. It's with a few buses, maybe 3 buses. This is where you have to really understand that when you're looking at disrupting, you have to be ready to get your hands dirty. So we had to do a sort of POC or pilot where you deploy this with the people and you test it out. And I remember one of the owners of the buses saying if we sold 2,000 cards in 3 months, he would buy us a case of champagne. Well, let's just say that we weren't able to do that in the 3 months. But funny enough, I think within the first 3 months, we had probably sold 500 cards. But what we did was fine tune the way we were offering the service. So, as I mentioned, the theory of the jobs to be done, you have to understand disruption. You need to introduce something, you need to disrupt. So we took the initiative by renting a bus. So we asked the owner, how much does it cost, or how much do you expect daily? You know? So he said X amount, and then he says, okay, we say we will rent the bus, but we operate it in our fashion. So on these buses, we said that anyone who has a card is somebody who has already bought the service. So they should be able to access this service ahead of everybody. So this created this feeling or this, this vibe where if I have a card, I get to go first. So people start to see that difference and they see that disruption. They see that, that moment of like why they're getting on this bus first. But because we've rented the bus, we get to dictate how that's going to go, the experience. So we're controlling the environment. And then at that point, when people started to see that VIP status kind of feeling, people started joining. Before you know it, it started with 10 people on the line. It became 30. So funny enough, as I said, we probably sold 500 within the first 3 months, but within 6 months, we had probably sold 10,000 cards. So it's about identifying that thing, that problem. And if you find the right tool that people can hire, they will literally just subscribe. So from there, the government was able to say, hey, you know what? This is something that's really changing the way people do business. And, Rwanda being one of the most amazing environments to launch a startup, the government is really pro in terms of giving and creating spaces for you to test out these things. We were able to do that. And then from there, it grew to a company where we were doing we started maybe doing 10, 20 transactions. It ballooned all the way to like 350,000 transactions per day. And then at some point, I remember us having conversations. Funny enough, fun fact, when I was probably third year in this company, when we're doing so much, I mean, we're really disrupting. I get an invitation to go to Mozambique to attend a conference on financial inclusion. And this is where I meet Matteo. And I remember being on the panel with him and being on stage and having no clue what financial inclusion meant. And for Matteo to just take some time to sit with me, and then we traded some different ideas and discussions. And for me to start to understand really what I was doing and understand that it was bigger than just solving the problem that we had really inceptualized or got into the game to solve. But from there, what's happening is it's created a cluster, or it's created a reaction. People have started trusting saving money in a digitalized kind of environment. So before, people would rather keep money underneath their mattress. But today, because they were introduced, this card talked to the mass. This is what I was talking about, entry into the mass sectors of Africa. You find people now also breaking those stigmas, that money in the bank is not safe. If they can board the bus, which is their basic first transaction in their day, and it's safe and it's clear and you can really rely on it, wow, it creates a habit, it creates a culture. So one of the things that I love to experience, or I experienced before, was one day I'm driving by a bank and I'm using the ATM, and there's a long line up at the ATM, and I'm so shocked because I'm like, ATMs usually used to be free. So I look at some of the people on the line, and one of the person in the line had a tap and go card. So I just asked him, "Hey, by the way, can I ask you, a question? Where did you get the courage to get a bank card? What was the first experience? What happened? How did you get into a bank card?" And he says, "Hey, The first thing was I had a tap and go card. Once I believed in the tap and go card, I was easily able to move towards other tools. So this is definitely incentives that you're seeing that are coming naturally from the space, but it's something that you have to intentionally, really, 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 from the government's point of view, they have to intentionally promote this. They have to look out for these so-called gems that are coming around. And you as the business, you have to really think, you have to put yourself in the customer's shoes and really understand the problem and see how you can solve it. And when we're talking about solving it from the passenger's point of view, they're able to predict their fares, they're able to plan. From the side of the bus operator, their revenues grew up by like 40%, literally. So those are plus signs that this is working. And then later on, as you mentioned, Wi-Fi, we started to understand that there's an ecosystem around these people because we literally have an audience of almost close to 350,000 people daily where you had access to them to sell them internet content, you can sell them entertainment content, you can sell them loans, even on their fares. Because again, this is an ecosystem that you've created around an environment or a sector. So yeah, that's what I would say when it comes to what you were trying to ask me.
I remember very well that Mozambique conversation. Actually, it was the first ever, let's say, fintech conference of the country, and I remember already back then talking about the AC Group, being naturally a fintech, and that was, this is where this whole, let's say, ecosystem, financial inclusion ecosystem related, conversation started. So, Philip, now you are bringing all this into I want to say, a capacity building environment, right? So, and I don't know, I know ALX, of course. I know them as a grantee of the MasterCard Foundation. I don't know particularly well ALX Ventures, so maybe you can like shed some lights as well. But I am more interested about what are you learning daily, because I build Time Pledge as well to help young entrepreneurs, but also young students, because I blindly believe in a potential of young people in Africa, and I want to share like across some of the learnings that you're having in these first months of your new side gig, put it this way.
So once upon a time, I remember listening to a podcast. I think it was a podcast or a panel where Jack Ma mentioned something where he said, "If you're lucky in life, find a great person to lead you, with a vision, and let them teach you how they put this vision together. And then at some point, go out there and take a risk, create this, and then keep pushing." But in Rwanda, because of unfortunately the genocide against Tutsi, we lost a huge generation of people who should have been the leaders that we should have been following. But we find ourselves as being young people having to disrupt and create businesses out of necessity. Like it's opportunities that are there that you just have to take. But you don't have the experience, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the mentors to help you to push forward. The few mentors that are there, they're exhausted. There's so many young people, few older people. So you find yourself in a situation where now we're in a situation where Rwanda is 75% between the ages of 14 to 25, right? This is the population, and we are sitting at 14 million now. So you have a huge group of young people that are out there coming up. And they're growing up in an environment that is very conducive. It's encouraging. You have different programs, you have different hubs, you have different spaces that you're really pushing these people to really explore, and you're getting to see the best of Africa really being nurtured here in Kigali and Rwanda. So LX was one of those things where I have to be honest. I was watching this. I've recently become a fan of AI. You know, so I was watching the founder of NVIDIA. talking about how NVIDIA has gone through different moments in its company history. Even recently, with the recent trade wars, where they almost dropped by probably 40% in stock shares, literally. And then just from that, just shooting all the way up for this now to being another success story. But going through that valley, so one of the things that happened to me during December of 2024, I lost two uncles literally in the span of 2 months. And there was a moment where I think I realized that I haven't taken a break for the last 12, probably 12 years, 13 years. And I said, hey, it's time to just slow it down. It's time to, we always have this thing where we say, I literally remember telling my co founder, at some point in time, I am literally going to leave this space and go back to giving to people, giving back. Because the same thing applies when I met you, and I'm trying to understand, how does Matteo make money? Like, how does he actually make money? But you're literally looking at this gentleman who's going around the world talking about financial inclusion, fintech, and how this fintech is going to build all these bridges that are going to solve all these different problems. But it's actually taking care of him. He's able to still take care of his family. There's never, a time where I'm calling you and you're not with the family on vacation, which means that things are going well. So I was like, hey, you know what? We're always we have a mentality. I think it's an African mentality or a worldwide mentality where you think when you get to a certain level of success, then that's when you're allowed to now go give back. But that's necessarily not the case because God always has a different way things will work out. It might not be in your 10 years, it might be in your 20 years, it might be in your 30 years, it might be in your 5 years. You never know. But in the meantime, does that mean you're not going to give back? So I sit back after going through that experience and I had a very intense transaction that ended on the 31st of December, literally at New Year's. I think I left the bank at 10:30 p.m. As I was stepping out, driving back to my uncle's place where we were having the gathering of family, the final days we had already buried him, and I just remember just saying to myself, I need to make a change. I need to go get some energy. I need somewhere where I can get some inspiration. There's a point at which, as an entrepreneur, you reach a writer's block moment where everything's so intense that you can't even have a moment to actually think of solutions. So you're just drained. You just you're pushing against the grain. So I literally just open up my LinkedIn and I'm like, you know what? Let me look for an NGO that's working in Rwanda, that's in the education space, that's looking for entrepreneurship or entrepreneur background or skills or experience that they require. And I'm willing to be flexible when it comes to, education background, because technically most of my life, I've been an entrepreneur, literally. I didn't have the time to go to school. I did programs. So when you're going back into that space of saying, hey, I'm going to work with some of these organizations, there's still that, the traditional, hey, you need to have had a bachelor, this etc. But I find ALX and they're more interested in just, experience. So ALX is a unique, institution or organization. It's an NGO. People never understand it's an NGO, but it's a beautiful venture a studio where basically the mission that Fred and his, founders or his group of people have decided to take on is just basically creating 3 million entrepreneurial leaders that are going to create businesses that will create the jobs across Africa. Because the population of Africa is growing and it's very young. So we need these entrepreneurs who are going to create these jobs, to be able to hire these people. We can't wait for the multinationals to come in and now, save the day. No, we have to be intentional. And that's one of the things that Fred is very intentional about, is to create these intentional jobs for intentional African countries, solutions that are solving real problems, And it's been fun. It's been an experience. I get to meet young people who are focused in the AI space, they have just understood how to take AI and just add it to themselves. But the thing is, which is what I always tell my friends, as we call older generation now, the millennials, uh, we need to be careful. There are tools out here that are enhancing people to literally move 20, 30 times faster. But what they're lacking is the experience, how to understand how to really deploy a solution. But that is also for limited time, you know? It's like the GPTs today. The data sets, we're moving towards super intelligence, but at the moment, what we're working with is close to super intelligence. But the day we get there, it's going to be whoa, you know? But it's still, you still understand that. This is why today my fear of AI has kind of left, because I understand that AI is not here to take over. It's here to complement my work, to make me move super faster. So I keep telling my friends who are millennials, if you don't pick up AI tools, you're in trouble, literally. You are going to be left behind. So
It's funny what you're saying about this like a 3 million African mission, because that is it looks like super ambitious, right? At the same time, it isn't when you see the number of young people in the continent. But I want to share something that is like my own experience with Time Pledge, because we try to pick the best 1%, because we are not as well funded as ALX, so we just we got some pilot money. So we went to like Makerere University in Kampala, that is which is one of the biggest university of the continent. And you would think that when you offer a free upskilling AI and data science course to university students, managed by teachers from outside the continent, complemented with resources from universities, with hackathon in parallel, so not taking over like a time from the like a BAU university courses, people would jump at it, right? Because they would say, "Oh my God, it's free. It's a it's a semi-guaranteed job, because we say that we do have a network of startups. Like typically, I would call you and Patrick and would say, "Hey, do you need a data scientist? Because I have 100 of them just coming out. I vouch for them. You would trust, hopefully, me that I build up a course so these guys would be really upskilled, and you would hire them. And working for AC Group, it would be a much cooler job than working from, whatever, the post office, or maybe a sort of vanilla AI side of job, because they don't really even understand what the mission could be." Well, it wasn't the case, Philip. So to recruit our first 50 students, granted, our program wasn't, famous enough. We went to go almost recruiting them one by one, et cetera, et cetera. But the mentality of, oh my God, I'm doing something which is on the top of the university schedule, right, is for free, but still, is going to make me busier than I am, and you guys are not paying to do this. So there is this. So I don't know if you have the same sort of feeling, but I think also we need to work on the attitude, the mentality, the grit, because I also happen to have two like a teenager kids, so I know how they think. Sometimes they just want everything for granted, and wow, if you don't pay me, even if it's free, I won't do it, because it takes more time that I am officially asked for as a university student. I Let's talk a little bit about it. Is that maybe you're like you're talking daily with these young sort of resources or potential, assets. Is that something that you also sort of encounter?
I think it's just a young thing, I think I also felt or treated opportunities the same when I was coming up. I had the opportunity to grow in a family of entrepreneurs. I was raised in a family of entrepreneurs. My father was never one to be shy of giving you an opportunity to test yourself. He would rather give you an opportunity than give you money. So for me, naturally, that's where the school of thought that I come from. But you're right. Today, I would say there is another level of
Consciousness
yeah,
or
taking things for granted for sure. Let's say, for instance, somebody said the gifts and the benefits of having a safe, beautiful country is that you're going to have a generation that's very relaxed, towards opportunities. So what happens is that yeah, you just have a scenario where people are not seeing it out of desperation to go out there and create businesses. It's
yeah.
more out of an option. Today, you have an auntie, you have a father, you have a grandma. If you want to
Everything
just
is
live off,
stable. Food will
you know,
likely be on the table, right?
you know, you know. So it's very easy. I would say it's there's conducive environments for people to become you know passive and non-contributors to the ecosystem. But from the ones that I've been interacting with, one of the things that at ALX, I would say that they do with all their courses, they try to always instill 2 to 3 months of leadership course where they're able to teach these kids to be able to learn self-teaching. From self-teaching, there is something that happens there where you create these skills towards leadership, leading yourself, towards accomplishing a goal. And once they get to that accomplishment, it creates these moments of them appreciating them going through hard work. Hence why even the slogan goes, do hard things, literally. So there is definitely a generation that's pushing themselves towards figuring out what's out there, how to create these jobs. And one beautiful thing is that the message is becoming more clearer and clearer as we go. We're seeing, governments, presidents like our excellency, his excellency here, who has been pushing this message to the youth, which is stop relying on somebody else coming in and solving the day for you or creating opportunities for you to be able to take care of yourself. You need to understand that your future is really in your hands. So hence why there is definitely a big need for us to continue, us as the generation that's coming in now, as the millennials who are now addressing the Gen Z. There's a need for us to take time, like myself, like what I'm doing today, for us to take time out of our schedules and come down and share these experiences with these young people and share networks with them. For instance, today I'm helping this company called Net People, doing amazing work where when I met him, he was thinking about disrupting the HR issues out there. And I tell him, hey, by the way, you know how many HR solutions are out there? Do you know how hard it's going to be for you to disrupt the existing entities? Say what's unique about you, what's unique, what opportunity that's in Africa that would make you a Africa friendly solution. And I start telling him the casual laborers, when you look at, like, let's say Rwanda as an example, one of the biggest things that we produce as a country is agricultural goods. So which means the largest workforce is in the casual laborers. But is there anything out there, so, providing a solution for people who are in casual laborers or who have casual laborers? And you find that there's so many different problems. There is payments getting there on time, payroll being on time, access to data for these people to have access towards loans. They've been getting paid for all these years, but they've never been recognized. So put something that can create a bridge for them to be able to have data that can be fed to people who can lend them some money. And you now have somebody like a big institution that can be recognized as a guarantor that can be able to access them to capital. And then from there, you could even start doing the loans yourself. So when you start to see how the idea is growing and mushrooming, and seeing him having that joy, me being able to say, hey, I know I've wrestled with the central bank for a few years, Let me take you there and let me try to see if I can get you into the sandbox. I'm sure you're familiar with the Rwandan BNR sandbox, which is a great tool that's creating incentive in terms of onboarding new companies without taking on that exorbitant license cost. So yeah, that's something that like Net People today, fingers crossed, we are hoping that he ends up in the sandbox. But if he's able to end up in the sandbox, you're going to be able to see the people who have been left behind for all these years, the casual laborers, the guys who are working in the farms, the guys who are growing potatoes, sweet potatoes, the last mile guy, having access to small capital, small loans, but those small loans can make a huge difference where they're coming from. Today you might think $10 is nothing, but for somebody who's coming from the village, $10 could be access to buying 6 goats. Maybe those 6 goats turn into 12, 12, 32, them having access to getting a bike to get into the local markets. You know, these are the ecosystem drivers that are coming up. And I'm loving the fact that I started in mobility. I started in something that disrupted the low hanging, people, individuals, the low income earners, but being able to serve this forgotten group of people, or what we don't like to usually get our hands into or get our hands dirty. We always like to go for the luxury products, huh? The easier people to sell to, but they also hold on to their money harder. So if you want to get into places where you can make some money, when you look at the Americas, when you look at Europe, they've just understood how to create big markets, big, access to big numbers of people. And this is why when you see AFCTA coming, AFCTA won't be addressed by the big luxury products. No, it's understanding how to tap into the masses. So even one of the solutions that I'll be getting involved in after my 24-month break, it's something that I'm working on. I'm taking my time, but it's to create a network or a platform where you create sort of a Uber effect for logistics and trucks. Because the next thing
Yeah.
you know, very soon, e-commerce is pushing, and we need to create these pipelines where movement of goods needs to be efficient, payments need to be efficient. So if you see that I'm seeing that as the future, and I'm like, yes, I need to find my way in there, but I'm taking my time, no rush, building it slowly by slowly, having the opportunity to work with some of the students from ALX as well, with their AI background, with the data science, data engineering background. Mateo, I'm telling you, these kids put me to shame when it comes to how fast they move, huh?
Yeah,
But the beautiful
absolutely.
thing is they're able to just extract my idea, experience, and they just turn it into this cool canvas. And no, the future is bright. The future it's going to be amazing. Great work coming up. Great disruptions coming up. You're going to see a lot more in terms of young people taking chances in the forgotten sectors or the ugly sectors or the
No doubt.
non-sexy sectors.
No doubt. No doubt. And Philip, absolutely, absolutely. Philip, and you made me think that I am a strong believer in the bottom up approach. So in actually doing exactly what you're doing, go starting with simple talk and conversations with the future leaders, people that will create the companies. And Africa needs more people like you, and that you can see our producer made me think that I'm wearing an Nala t-shirt today, and Benjamin is one of the leaders that Africa needs, right? Not only for the job he creates, but for the inspiration. Guys like him and like you can be for the young African generations. By the way, Benjamin, I'm calling you out. If you want me to wear the same T-shirts for all the episodes, Nala has to become a sponsor of Breaking Banks Africa. So let's see if this, let's say, soft commercial will will work. I also have another advertising for the GSMAP conference, which is not a sponsor of Breaking Banks Africa, but it is, a very cool event that GFTN and SME Finance Forum are organizing in Johannesburg. By the way, Philip, if you have the opportunity, it's in September. You should consider to join. It's not far from where you are, and it will be an enormous opportunity to get the SME side, if you want to, of the financial inclusion equation. And we are already making an exception, Philip, because usually the show is 30 to 35 minutes. We are over 45 minutes because this conversation, as I knew, it was so fluent, and I'm so, let's say, energized, even if it's still early in the morning for me. Philip, thank you very much for agreeing to be with us, and I really believe that you should come back and catch up on some of the different adventures and entrepreneurs you will help.
I look forward to hosting you at our hub when you're in Kigali. We have a thing called Do Hard Things Challenge, where we bring in champions for the guys who have qualified from the different 8 hubs, as I mentioned. So I'll have the privilege of hosting it this year in Kigali, in Rwanda, at the Zaria Courts.
Oh, cool.
The recently opened Zaria Courts. Great environment for young guys to really go out there and think. But yeah, we'll be hosting a number of different, organization, group of people, friends like yourself. So I'll be in touch with you just to give you more information. But yeah, man, I look forward to also collaborating with you. Please, with Time Pledge, I would love to see how we can definitely find ways to collaborate. And again, the most important mission here is that we are helping young people. So when that is what's leading us at the forefront, collaboration becomes very easy. So I look forward to working with you, Matteo, as always.
Absolutely. And by the way, we have our, the next edition of the Inclusive FinTech Forum happening early next year. So I'm pretty sure that we will combine some of the activities of IFF with ALX Ventures sort of gatherings. So it'll be smart to do it in the same week. With that, our time is up. Philip, thank you very much again for being our star guest today. Episode number 8, and this is a wrap.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Africa, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with timepledge.org. Don't forget to share us out or shout out across social media. If there is something or someone you would like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next month on Breaking Banks Africa.